The ending is always so hard for me it's always so hard for me. I get so frazzled because I want to make sure you feel
Shall we end in a
heard.
prayer?
You know what? If we end with a prayer, maybe that might actually feel more structured and put
Put my
together.
head on.
Welcome back. Wendi Renee here. So excited to have you today. I am honored to introduce you to my friend Michelle. Michelle is coming from Auckland. And, you know, I've been trying to get with Michelle for something like 6 months or so. We've been missing each other, and now we're finally able to lock each other down and get her story out. Before we begin, I want to thank you so much for liking, sharing, and subscribing. I am astonished by this audience and this community that we're building up here. So if you're on the podcast and you're listening, thank you so much for the downloads. And, you know, it just goes to show that more and more people are waking up, and we're here to support them, to support you. So thank you so much for that. So let's get right to our content today. Michelle, it is such an honor to have you on the channel. We've been trying to get this together for a very long time. For those of you who aren't aware, I hope you're following Michelle on TikTok and on Instagram. She posts some really amazing things. This is how we've connected. So Michelle, take it away. Tell us a little about yourself and what brought you here.
Well, thank you, Wendi, for having me and like having this whole space in general for us to all hang out and chat with you. Yeah, so I guess my background was that I was raised as a witness, and I left in 2020. I was one of the casualties of the pandemic, I guess, for the witnesses. Yeah, so I lost my job, and that obviously led to a little bit more time on my hands. I was in a very low place and was looking at like Reddit, I think, for like therapy and on TikTok as well, and for just general sort of guidance. And I came across the exjw subreddit. And yeah, like dove straight in and basically researched my way out of the religion.
Okay, so you got baptized at a young age?
I was 19. My mom sort of started studying when I was 5, and we were basically associated with witnesses ever since then. Like on and off, probably until I was like 10. And then she got baptized when I was 15, and then I got baptized at 19. So yeah.
So you and your mom kind of learned about the religion together, it sounds like.
Yeah, and my younger brother as well, but he was not really all that interested, especially from around age 13, and he sort of faded out, I guess.
So what did your JW career look like for you? Was there pioneering, or were you a lot like the rest of us, just fully in it?
I was very fully in it, especially the last 10 years. So I'm 36 now. So I guess from when I was 26. And yeah, I would pioneer on and off, but I had to work full time. And yeah, I always felt that I was never good enough because I was never able to fully commit to pioneering. Like, you know, that's the standard for a woman.
Yeah. And you didn't get married at 18.
How am I supposed to find an outer to marry if I don't pioneer?
Right, exactly. I mean, because that's what all the good guys are looking for, the woman the woman behind the man. Absolutely. Yeah. So then what happened? What did your wake up process look like for you?
So it was a lot of research over the course of a week. It was in October 2020, exjw Reddit, jdubfacts.com, and then finally finding the Facebook groups and making some connections there, and connecting with other Jehovah's Witnesses and just finding out everyone else's experiences and realizing, wow, I'm not alone. New Zealand, like, it's quite small, and you think, oh gosh, like I've just left and there's no one else here, but there are people.
Yeah, I was just talking to Ryan about that in the last video. It's like you think that your story is so unique because you're programmed to think that there's something wrong with you to not believe it anymore. And then once your eyes are opened to this community, it's like, oh, wait a second. We're all saying the exact same thing.
Exactly. And even like within the context of like worldly people, normal people, I thought it would be like this big thing that they would think I'm just like the weirdest person alive. But people have been so accepting and like accommodating of my needs or lack of knowledge around certain aspects of like normal life. And just last night, because here in New Zealand the memorial was last night, and I went out with two of my friends that I've made through making friends apps. We headed out to watch the sunset with another one of their friends, and it was just chill. It was fine. Nothing bad happened. We all just sat there and watched the sunset.
No fireballs hit you. No one died.
Spoiler alert, there's no Armageddon coming because it's already the future here in New Zealand.
In one of our conversations, I think you had mentioned what it's like to make friends when you're leaving the organization, because it's kind of it's disorienting waking up really and accepting the fact that the people that you loved and actually did love you, but it was more of a conditional love. It's really hard to wake up to that. Number one. Number two, to trust people. So I've noticed there's one of two immediate feelings when you leave the organization. You're either extremely trusting or extremely skeptical of people. And either way, it is a terrifying thing to go out there. It can be to make friends and form a whole new community, especially when you're in your 20s and your 30s and people kind of already have themselves established. It's a challenge, especially in the dating world too. I remember you and I talked about that, so we're going to get to that as well.
Well, from the friendship standpoint, it took a while. Like I became really more introverted than I was as a witness. Like I feel like when I was a witness, I felt like I had to have this extroverted persona that's not necessarily me. And over the course of the last year and a half, I've kind of delved deep into myself, and I've realized, that was not who I am. It was who I was forced to be. And so I've really enjoyed just not having to do things on the weekends, not having to go out every Saturday night. Like I had to before as a witness. I was like, I have to be out. I have to be with everyone, or else I won't get invited places. I won't have friends, and I will die alone. Basically, like spiraling. But now I'm like, I don't have to go out. I can chill at home. I'm pretty great. Like, why was I running from myself this entire time? Because we're taught not to trust ourselves.
Right. Why was I running from myself? You know what? One of the things you also, in our earlier days of activism, you said something pretty profound. I don't know if you remember it, but you fully admitted that when you were waking up or when you were in there, as we all have this struggle with depression, and the organization made it seem like there was something wrong with you. Can you talk about that? Because I know people in both of our audiences relate to that very much.
Yeah. So I've always had depression and anxiety, but not really realized until just before I woke up. And I actually went to my doctor and got a diagnosis for depression. But I remember speaking to a couple of the older sisters in my hall and saying, I'm going to therapy because I felt suicidal. And, I got the stock standard answer of, have you tried praying? Have you looked at your personal study? And I'm like, that's not helping me. But I can't remember what profound thing I said.
Well, first of all, you mentioned that it was the implication that you're not doing enough, and that they kind of already kicked you when you were already down. And that was one of the pinnacle moments in waking you up, because you were doing enough. You were doing those things. And then I think you met twice with a counselor, and you really were struggling to afford it, but you did it anyway. And just doing that, just going to the clinician, was a huge step for you.
Yes, that's right. Yes. Yeah. So here in New Zealand, we get 4 free sessions with a counselor, and I used those up, and then I woke up and I was like, oh geez, man, like I think I need to go again. Like I need to see someone. And I really could not afford it, but I knew it was important. And she was just like, what? Wow. Like you left your whole community, and like, wow. And like I would love to keep seeing her, but it's not like subsidized here or anything. So, but she has pointed me in the right direction of where to find information and what tools I need to look for and what I can do to help myself keep going. So it's worked so far. I'm still here.
Well, and that is the thing, really, is just once we have the tools that we never had. On the other video, Ryan mentioned something. She said that, we're not given the tools. For example, I related to this so much of, I wasn't taught personal boundaries. I would let anyone and everyone just kind of give an opinion on my life. And, when I was in counseling, just learning that, just that small step is what helped me start to really develop a good relationship with myself.
And even like, I often think back and I cringe because I was not respectful of other people's boundaries, because we weren't ever taught anything like that ever at all. And it's, yeah.
And I just saw a thread in Reddit of this, the girl was just kind of taking a step back a little bit, kind of figuring out if she even believed it or not. And the sister was like, listen, I'm just worried about you. Talk to me. Tell me what's going on in your mind. Let me in. And it's kind of like, I remember being that way, thinking that I was entitled to the personal thoughts of other people, thinking that number one, I could fix them, help them. And ultimately, when they did tell me, it just made me judge them even more. It's just a really, there's this sense of entitlement when you're in the organization to you having to other people's thoughts.
Yeah, totally. Completely. And I'm so glad that I've had the time to sort of be more comfortable within myself, that it doesn't matter. Like, I personally don't need to know the ins and outs of someone's situation unless they want to tell me. I just need them to know, or I just would like them to know that I'm there. You know, if someone's going through something, I'm there for you, but you do not under any circumstances owe me any kind of explanation about anything. And likewise.
Yeah. And because once they, and you know what it also taught us too, well, for me personally, is that, you know, opening up, there's consequences to opening up. And so what that does is that starts this whole going inward, and it's not okay to not be okay type of situation happens to us, and perceiving ourselves as socially awkward.
Yes. Yeah. And that also, like you were saying, how I ended up, you know, dating worldly men when I left. And that's a whole nother realm of awkwardness when you leave a high control religion where you've been told like your whole life worldly people are bad, and especially worldly men, because they only want to get to know you for sex. And so that's just always in the back of your mind, at least I found, for myself. And because I was never married when I was a witness, and I was a pretty by the book goody good for the most part, I hadn't had sex before I left. So I entered the dating world completely inexperienced, and that's just a whole nother level of awkwardness as well. To navigate like worldly men, everything that's going on in your mind, and have the added layer of just not even having that experience in the background. So
sure, that has to be a lot, because again, you're taught to trust too much or not trust at all. What was this like for you? Because you could have done what so many people do, is stay in the religion just because it could be lonely, but you didn't. You stayed true to yourself. So now that you're out, how did you reconcile all of that?
Finding out who I am and just being myself. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, whether I'm experienced or not. I'm a great person. And they're lucky to have taken me out on a date.
Yes, yes. Now we're talking.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes we leave the religion and we think that we wear it like a t-shirt, you know, like, and and it's funny because I remember when I first left and I got my first couple of friends that weren't witnesses, I felt like that was kind of like my elevator speech. Like, hi, I'm Wendi. I just left the cult. I was very much like Chandler. I felt like it introduced me anyway, so I might as well just add to the awkwardness. I have stopped doing that since.
I've been trying to stop. I actually went to my friend Kat's birthday party last weekend, and it's the first birthday party I've been to.
Wow.
as you know, a normal person.
No heads on platters or anything like that.
I'm not gonna say something. I'm not gonna say to the other people that I am an ex-Jehovah's Witness. But then Kat's like, so Michelle here grew up in a cult. This is her first birthday party. And I'm like, hey.
And I wonder, do we wear it? Is it obvious? This is why sometimes just because we're on YouTube and social media doesn't mean we're actually extroverts. I'm not an extrovert by any stretch of the imagination. I can talk to, like, Jerry Seinfeld did a stand-up comedy skit, and he said, like, I could talk to all of you, but I can't talk to any of you. Like, that is 100% how I am in real life. So when I get out there, it takes a lot. And the last thing I want to do is make growing up in a cult my identity, you know?
Yes. Yeah, I know for now, like it's a part of me, and probably later on I'll look back and be like, why were you doing this? But
Yes.
I'm also like, well, you know what? Screw it. Like, hopefully I help someone by my experience and them knowing that they're not alone. There's some weirdo in New Zealand who's going through the same thing or has been through the same thing, and everything's okay. So
I think what it takes is to just understand that it's just a part of life. It's just your experience. So now that you're out, what does life look like for you? And if you want to talk about what the dating world is like, there are tons of single people in our audiences as well who are trying to tiptoe into that. If you want to tell us what's going on now.
So life for me at the moment, like I come to realize that my life as a Jehovah's Witness, I was very goal orientated. Like I have to pioneer, I have to do this, I have to get married, this has to happen or else I'm not good enough. So now I'm like, take each week as it comes. I'm happy to not have any specific goals at the moment, you know, just chill on the weekend. I don't have to get an hour of field service. I don't have to do anything for someone else. Like it's all just, what do I want to do? And I get to sort of just rediscover myself or create myself again. And I do dog grooming and digital art. So I like to focus on those two things in terms of like, you know, what I want to do in the future. I love animals, dogs especially. Just getting to even think about having a career is kind of nice after years of not being allowed to pursue education. And I think I'm nearly qualified. I just have to do a couple of assessments, and I'm a qualified dog groomer, which wouldn't have happened if I was still a witness.
So digital art and dog grooming. Tell us a little bit about art. We see it on TikTok all the time. If you're not following her stuff, please follow it. It's beautiful. It's expressive. So tell us a little what inspired all of that stuff.
So a lot of my art lately is sort of doing a spin on our old JW classic literature pictures that we all kind of grew up with in the Revelation book and my book of Bible stories. And I kind of put a little bit of a twist on it. I think I've got a piece in the background there of the harlot, and instead of writing the beast that she was in the Revelation book, she's writing something else a little more kinky. So I sort of started expressing myself as well through that. Like and part of my journey in leaving, I identify now as a demisexual pan-romantic, which basically means I need to get to know someone intimately before I want to get to know someone emotionally before I want to get intimate with them. Not the other way around. And for me personally, like I don't mind, it's not a deciding factor what your sex or gender is. It's who you are as a person, essentially. Yeah, it's all about the mind and how you are as a person, whether or not I'll be attracted to you. And so I've sort of become a little bit a part of the queer community in Auckland, and there's a cafe in the city that is now featuring some of my art, and apparently it's a little bit popular. I actually need to run down there later this afternoon and refresh the pieces that they have there. It's just like, it's a whole new thing. Like even the term for demisexual, like I knew that's kind of how I felt, like that I needed to get to know someone before I wanted to do anything physical for a long time, but I had no idea that there was like a term for it or what it meant. And even looking at that could have got me in trouble as a Jehovah's Witness. Certainly. So I didn't tell anyone when I found that out when I was still a witness. So it's kind of cool to sort of be on this journey now and self-discovery.
Well, and so your art made you come to this realization as you were kind of pulling it out of yourself. Is that
yeah, it was like, wow. Like it both complemented each other, I guess. And the things that I was able to look up in terms of other people's art and the people that I was able to connect with and get to know other ways of being, as opposed to just this like robot from a white American corporate religion.
That's right. Just kind of like we were all very much Stepford. We were all kind of pod people, just all doing the exact same thing. I especially love how honest, I love a good story of this is my wake up story and here's how I've reconciled it and I'm doing really well right now. I think your story is very inspiring. With regards to your activism, what made you get into activism, and what are some of your, I know I love that you said we're not goal oriented. I'm more effort oriented than I am goal oriented. Like I'm like that with my kids. Like I'd rather you get a hard earned C than an easy A, right? Like I'm all about effort things. So what does it look like? Because you're putting so much effort into all this activism. I really want to make sure that people see what you're doing. So tell us a little bit about it and what made you want to do it.
So I just really wanted to sort of be funny.
Which you are.
And hopefully connect with people who also, you know, find humor in the same things I do. And like I started just making memes on Instagram, and then I've had TikTok for a while, and then I thought, you know what, I think this is a space that especially needs more women voices in the exjw activism world, which is why I love your channel. But yeah, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to start doing things on TikTok because I don't have the equipment for a YouTube channel myself, and I'm also very ADHD, so it's quite nice and quick on TikTok for me.
I mean, yes, you do have the equipment for a TikTok. You're on it right now, but
I mean for YouTube.
I meant for YouTube. You're on it right now, but
I don't know. I kind of want a cool mic. Fun.
Oh well, this is just a prop. The mic is actually in the camera, but this is just for appeal, and it was really cheap on Amazon. But yeah. So what would you say to the younger you, just waking up, just trying to figure herself out? Because I know she's in our audience, both of our audiences, just trying to navigate this.
Don't be afraid. Just don't hold back. Like, be yourself and be real. And the people that find you, they're the people that you need to keep around, the ones that lift you up, and you can likewise lift other people up as well. Like it's a great community out there, especially on TikTok, with all the other women exjw activists that we have. I love their content. Yeah, it's amazing. Like, just do it. Do something. Like, it doesn't have to be that, like, but just, you know, do something that makes you feel happy and connected to other people.
One of the things you mentioned that we didn't discuss in this interview was the moment that you woke up. It was, I think you mentioned it was an aunt who had gotten in with conspiracy theories. Can you please just touch on what made you relate that to the JW religion, and what made you, what clicked for you?
So yeah, all throughout 2020 with the pandemic, my aunt was sending me all these YouTube conspiracy theories and like Facebook links, and it was quite easily debunked if you did just the littlest bit of like critical thinking. Which, wow, amazing that I could even do that. But at one point she sent something about what they believed. One of the posts that she sent me like reminded me a lot of the JW literature, and I just remember thinking, wow, like, who am I to sit here going, she's crazy? Like, what does she believe? When we as witnesses literally believed that like all these white man angels are just going to destroy everyone on earth. And we were going to live forever on a paradise earth in suits and ties.
Oh my God, you're right.
Like, what?
You know, Michelle, do you know, sometimes I sit and I really believed, and I wanted everyone else to believe, that only 144,000 people are going to heaven. I'm going to live forever in suits and ties. That was the best part. With like, who's going to create the infrastructure, and how are we going to have electricity, and like, what are we going to do? Like, how is this going to happen? I laugh at the fact that we actually believe this right now. It's embarrassing sometimes, but yeah, I see what you mean. So you related the two of them together.
Yeah, and I was like, that's crazy. And then I think like that was sort of happening in the background, and then I had the whole therapy side of things pop up later on, and it just all kind of was like waking up. I was just like, wow, like I've never felt like I know something as surely as I know that this is not the truth.
Yeah, it's a terrifying thing. I mean, not terrifying, but I remember I had a conversation. It is. I had a conversation with someone today, and they're trying to get through to their friend. And, I said, for me, it was the emotional control was the last to go, big time. I mean, that's for a lot of people. But what made me unravel all of that was saying, this is not the truth. Yeah. Once you stop believing that it's the truth, it's almost like that's when you give yourself permission to start looking into other things, to looking into other forms of research. Would you agree that you felt like you, especially as a woman, to give yourself permission almost?
Yeah, definitely. Like I wasn't asking for advice before searching for information. I just went ahead and did it. Like, yeah, it's something pretty unheard of, because I think that there was a scripture about seeking the counsel of other people before making a decision. Like, it's a wise thing to do. And I used to I loved that scripture. I was like, yes, I'm going to talk to everyone before I make a decision. But no, you don't need to.
Right.
You do not need to. Yeah.
And they use that scripture a lot. Keep on seeking, keep on asking, but don't. But don't.
Yeah. Only ask approved questions by approved people to find approved answers.
Here's a list of questions. These are the questions you're allowed to ask. In fact, I am an avid reader, and I remember going to Barnes and Noble, or any bookstore for that matter, and I have this addiction to collecting journals, especially leather-bound journals. I just love books, and that scripture, to the making of many books there is no end. Like, I always would play these scriptures over and over. But one of the things I was drawn to was the self-help section, the psychology section, the religious studies section. And I remember walking through the bookstore and thinking, Jehovah, 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 just to not go through and read these books. It was insane. Yeah. And one of the first things I did when I started waking up was go to the bookstore and just open. I felt like Belle when she was like, that library was revealed to her in Beauty and the Beast.
Like, wow.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. More provincial town that I'm in. Oh my God. Yeah.
I found it's on my TikTok and Instagram. I think most recently I found another TikTok creator who talked about I can't remember the name of the incredibly famous Greek philosopher whose piece of story it was. It's something to do with a cave, and how you're brought up in a cave and you're told the only truth is the cave, and then you go outside and you're like, oh wow, I can see, oh look, there's real animals, there's real people, it's a lie, this whole cave is not the only thing that exists, and then you come back and you're trying to tell the people no, there's there's life out there, it's good, but because you've been out in the sun and now you're going back into the darkness to tell these people, you're stumbling and they think that you're crazy. And I'm like, this is exactly what it's like being an ex-Jehovah's Witness, because you want so much to tell your friends and family that they're stuck in a cave, pretty much. Yeah. So
and people aren't scary. I mean, there are scary people,
but they're scary Jehovah's Witnesses as well. Very scary.
Heavens. Yes. But I love what you said about, you just want to tell them. You just want them to know, listen, there is light on the other side of this cave, even though it seems scary. It's just not. And it's hard to watch our friends and family be so programmed. One of the things it seems like the point that you've reached is accepting yourself. And I don't think we were ever taught that on the inside, how to accept ourselves.
It's really hard. It's been a very hard process to sort of get to this point. And I won't say that I'm fully healed or fully accepting or anything, because it's not. And there are days when I'm like, oh, why did you think that? Or, oh, why did you do that just now? But it's just, as long as you've got self-awareness and can self-correct, you should be fine. And life is about learning, it's a journey. And as long as you're able to keep moving forward, which we are now that we're out of the cave, we should be good. Just make sure that, for me, I just try to make sure that I'm a kind person that has fun.
That's it.
That's basically it.
And have you ever seen The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt? Anyway,
yes,
it does. We come out of a bunker. So, and I gotta say, there there's still times, Michelle, where I talk to people who were not witnesses and I don't know what they're saying half the time. I'm just like,
yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's fine. But you know what? They don't know what I'm saying either. It doesn't make me weird. I mean, I am weird. I fully admit that. I'm 100% weird. It's fine.
And that's why I love you. Because if you weren't weird, I'd be like, no, I'm not going to go there.
Well, thank you for being weird with me. I really appreciate it very much, Michelle. For those of you who are not following Michelle, please go follow. All of her links are in the description box. Michelle, we want to make sure that we promote your art. Again, thank you so much for being on our channel. And I would love to have you back on again in a little bit, and we'll see where you are in your activism, and we'll catch up with you. Thank you so much for coming on, Michelle. We'll catch up with you next time.
Thanks for having me, Wendi.
Thank you so much for watching. And if you want to contact Michelle, her contact information is right in the description box. And I hope in hearing Michelle's story, you've seen a little bit of yourself. That's all we have for now. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.